Caesar became Canada's cocktail, or when hockey goalies didn't wear masks. Welcome to our Canada Day CKPG News special. We'll take a look at some of the things that make our country unique. It's a beloved symbol here in Canada, but the official Canadian flag didn't come without controversy. The maple leaf has flown high in Canadian skies for more than 50 years, but it wasn't everybody's first choice.
It is Canada's first official flag, and the maple leaf has become recognized worldwide. The maple leaf as we know it today came about in the 1960s when Canada flew under the red ensign, which had evolved through the years.
Well, this one was used from 1922 up until 1957.
The ensign wasn't an official flag of Canada, and it was Lester B. Pearson who began the charge for a new and official flag the country could call its own.
And make us all better and more united Canadians.
The desire for a new flag actually started back in the 1890s. There was a committee established to look into a new flag. That died off with the war, and it was rejuvenated in the 1920s.
Canadians were deeply divided on the flag. Some felt a strong attachment to the Union Jack. Others disagreed on what new symbol should represent the country.
Help to inspire and nourish loyalty, patriotism, and devotion among those who make up the nation. And, well, we have the right in this free country to disagree, thank God.
There was all kinds of disputes over the thing. A lot of people wanted to stay with the Union Jack. A lot of people wanted to go and to stay with the red ensign, and some people wanted a new Canadian official flag, and that's what it was, is to have an official Canadian flag.
With thousands of different concept designs for a new flag, one stood out.
George Stanley, who was eventually the Governor General of Canada, came up with the idea of using a variation of the Royal Military College flag with its two red bars, white center, and the armored fist in the middle. And he proposed that that be a red maple leaf.
What was left was the debate in Ottawa. Pearson's minority Liberal government faced opposition in John Diefenbaker's Conservatives, who launched a filibuster. The debate raged on, and after some 250 speeches, a final vote adopting the flag took place at 2:15 on the morning of December 15th, 1964. As for the red ensign, it is still flown today in Legion parades.
Up until 1965, every veteran served under that flag. So we do that to honor them.
Our flag is a source of pride for all Canadians. It's a unifying force that I think all Canadians throughout the country can look at with a great deal of pride.
The look of Canadian currency has changed several times over the years. For some, these little modifications are what drives them to collect these pieces of history.
So somebody actually sat down here and found the devil in their hair and they said they can't have that, so they had to destroy these, or is that the idea?
That's
really?
about it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Randy Wilson and Norm Cross are appreciating a 1954 Canadian dollar bill. If you look close enough, the face of the devil appears in the Queen's hair. Longtime collector Norm Cross likes to see the ever-changing currency.
Oh yeah, much sought after. Everybody likes change when it comes to collecting, right? How do you collect something if they're all the same?
The Canadian dollar has changed many times since it was first printed, each time displaying a miniature work of art.
If you're going to collect bills, you should always have the brand new one, because it's brand new. You can get that in uncirculated condition. Condition is everything. Nobody wants ragged stuff. They want really nice stuff.
The Royal Canadian Mint produces a vast variety of special edition coins. Paper money began officially phase out in 2011. Its replacement is the flexible plastic, known as a polymer. For some, the importance of collecting currency is when the year it was produced.
They start out with the year of their birth. Like for myself, I buy sets of coins for my grandchildren, for the year they were born. So I would buy them a mint set for the year of their birth. And then it's up to them whether they choose to keep it going or not. But most generally, they just keep it for the year that they were born and something Grandpa gave them.
This is a 1954 bill. It's exactly the same. You turn it over, and it's blue on the back.
Wow, that looks like a $5 bill, hey, on the back, because
yeah,
remember the $5 bills were blue on the front and blue on the back.
For some people who collect money, it can hold many memories for them. Therefore, it's invaluable. However, a bank will see the value differently.
The value on that, taking it to the bank, if you've got a 1935 or 1937 dollar bill, you're going to get your dollar back.
Canadians have contributed to medical research in a variety of different fields, but one of the most significant discoveries was insulin. Since then, millions of people have relied on insulin to stay alive.
Children with diabetes were given only 1 year to survive after being diagnosed prior to the discovery of insulin. Canadian medical scientists Frederick Banting, Charles Best, and J.J. McLeod knew diabetes was caused by a lack of something being made in the pancreas. After conducting some experiments, they discovered what this something was in 1922.
It was this group of scientists that identified this hormone, which they actually originally called iletin, now known as insulin. And once they had identified the hormone, they then could isolate it. And then very quickly they were given permission to give this hormone, insulin, back to individuals with type 1 diabetes, and it resulted in those individuals recovering from their disease and having a lifelong treatment with insulin.
Over 7% of Canadians over the age of 12, or roughly 3 million people, have been diagnosed with diabetes, including Amy Blanding, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 4 years ago.
In the months leading up to my diagnosis, I lost about 35 pounds. So I had all of the typical symptoms of diabetes, so water retention, bloating, rapid weight loss, craving sugar.
Blanding was experiencing these symptoms because people with diabetes don't produce insulin.
Insulin is a hormone that's produced by our pancreas that allows your body to take up nutrients that we take in through our diet and allow the cells of your body to use those nutrients for energy. And once our energy demands are met, then we can store that energy for a rainy day.
Blanding's daily routine includes checking blood sugar levels. If her levels are low, she needs to consume more sugar or carbohydrates. When her levels are high, insulin is needed. She also manages her levels with exercise and her diet, but can't imagine what life would be like without insulin.
We need it in order to allow our cells to open up and consume sugars. Like, that's how our engine keeps running. So life without insulin is not really good quality life at all, and it will kill you eventually.
Luckily, life without insulin isn't a reality. It saves millions of lives, and Canada continues to be at the forefront of diabetes research.
Coming up next on our Canada Day special, many of us have traveled the world, but haven't even traveled our own country. More on this after the break. Culture is different everywhere you go. You could be in the same country, the same province, or even the same region, and it could feel like a completely different world. Well, that's what one man found when he moved from the East Coast all the way to Prince George.
My name is Dean Andrews. I'm originally from Point Leamington, Newfoundland. Came out here approximately 30 years ago and been in Prince George pretty much ever since.
Do you remember when you first moved to Prince George? People find new homes for family, for school, for adventure, but in Dean Andrews' case, it was for work, or lack thereof, actually. In Newfoundland, a few decades ago, prompted him to uproot from the rock and plant new ones about as far west as he could go.
The move has been good. It's met my wife out here. Business is going good. Yeah, it's good. It's good for sure.
That business is the Fountain Tire, which he co-bought about 10 years ago.
We only need one. We get all the work done. That's why we left Newfoundland. We got all the work done over there, so we came out here to help out. Yeah, this is my life right now, and this is it. From a fishing boat to tires.
When you first move somewhere new, differences are found everywhere. But Andrews says the big thing is the most obvious, not being on the water. As for the people...
People are awesome in Prince George. People in Newfoundland are awesomer.
And the differences at events?
More booze in Newfoundland.
Andrews takes a trip back home with his family each year. It's a way to show them where he's from, almost an entirely different world. There's also a chance to learn a new language, Newfoundlandese.
One of the Newfie slangs, how you getting on? Actually used to go, how you getting on, cocky, when you see a guy going down the road. I'm rotted with the weather. Another one was, yes, bye.
So a successful journey across the country as many others have had. But being a Newfie through and through, Andrews is always hopeful he'll find his way back to the Rock.
Well, there is one piece of Canadian culture that those of us on the West Coast just don't understand, and that's bagged milk. However, the way Prince George residents get their milk has changed over the years. Many can remember door-to-door delivery and how much easier it is now to go to the store and get a jug off the shelf.
Let's throw it back to a much simpler time. A time when getting your milk didn't mean driving out to the grocery store. Instead, it was brought straight to your door.
The quart bottles, of course, were about the same shape and just...
John Warner moved to Prince George with his family in 1939 at just 4 years of age, and having a milkman is something he recalls very well.
I remember very clearly that the milk was brought to our home, and everyone else's that wanted milk. The milkman came early in the morning with milk in quart bottles. If Mother wanted 2 quarts of milk, she put 2 bottles out on the front step.
The relationship between milkman and customer was one built on trust, seeing that the milk was delivered every day and the payment only received once a week.
There was never any concern that somebody might come along and take that money. Didn't even enter our mind that somebody might do something like that. So the money was just put out there.
One of the biggest differences about milk then versus now is that it wasn't pasteurized. The unpasteurization of milk, although seemed harmless and maybe even seemed like the most wholesome way to consume milk, unfortunately led to the spread of disease like typhoid fever and tuberculosis.
In the 1920s, early 1930s, there was a big push by the Canadian government for milk to be pasteurized, and people in the community felt that it was important as well, seeing as disease was starting to spread through unpasteurized milk. In 1932, the city of Prince George put out a pamphlet saying that all milk must be pasteurized.
Milk delivery in Prince George was up and running until as recently as 1996 by Fraser Milk Dairy.
When they delivered the milk, it would come and the cream had risen to the top. We were supposed to shake the milk up nicely before using it. However, that cream was pretty darn nice, so us kids would periodically use the cream on our cereal or porridge in the morning, and then take a little bit of wrath from our mother because that wasn't allowed.
Milk delivery was phased out over time due to grocery stores beginning to offer the product, causing a lack of demand in the door-to-door delivery.
Stay with us. The history of sandblasting coming up next. Well, it's specific to Prince George, but it's probably something you'd only see in Canada. Strapping on skis and flying down a hill in the middle of summer. That's exactly what the bravest skiers did from the 1970s to the early 2000s at the annual sandblasting event.
Few things seem more Canadian than finding a way to do a winter sport in the summer. But that's what Prince George did for more than 30 years when sandblast was what the Cupbanks were known for.
You have to understand what an incredible experience this was. It sounds strange to people that don't really know, but it was really an amazing thing.
Skiing down one of the steepest hills in Prince George was how elite skiers would display their skills during the summer, and it brought out quite a contingent. Denny Hicks was among them, first attending the jaw-dropping event and then volunteering as a flag rescuer in the 80s.
It was really fast because I sat halfway and then there was people further up, so they would catch those flags. But yeah, they would whip by very quickly as they went, but you always prayed that there wasn't a wipeout that came in your direction, that's for sure.
Though one never came near her, a drastic wipeout would derail the event after 32 years.
Oh my God, oh my God. Oh.
As Sandblast evolved, more variations arose, eventually resulting in a furniture category. In 2003, a couch with bicycle wheels on it was part of this terrifying incident that sent 3 riders and 2 others to a hospital with various injuries.
Apparently they tested it out on a different hill numerous times when we're pretty certain that it would work just fine. The organizer didn't think it would go as fast as it went, and it unfortunately hit some people, lost control and hit some people.
Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt except for the event itself. With insurance rates skyrocketing after the incident, Sandblast quickly fizzled out. But its memory lives on through a piece of memorabilia at the exploration place.
So these are Bob Nelms' skis, and Bob Nelms won the first 2 sandblast competitions in the 70s.
The first winner's skis, a battered mess, but a relic, remembering a unique part of Prince George and a sport that I'm not sure you'd find anywhere else but Canada.
Yeah, I don't think you could really compare it to anything. It's something to be seen, but that's Prince George.
Well, it's the heat of summer. It's not exactly the most ideal time to be talking about hockey, but it is Canada's sport. And one of the most Canadian things about hockey is a goalie mask.
I can't do this, Jacques. It's never been done before. Mr. Blake. You can't see down with that thing. Mr. Blake.
Everyone remembers the Heritage Minute vignette. November 1st, 1959, Madison Square Garden. The visiting Montreal Canadiana are playing the host New York Rangers. Jacques Plante was in net for the Habs. A shot from Andy Bathgate hits Plante in the face and cuts him badly. The netminder played out the rest of the period.
Actually, during a game, mid-game, against the New York Rangers, I think he went from not wearing the mask at the start of the game to wearing this crude invention that was more, I think, restricting than it was advantage for him. But yeah, he put the mask on mid-game.
But the goalie's decision did not sit well with coach Toe Blake in those days of rough and tumble hockey.
It was almost a sign of weakness, so they didn't want the Canadian fans to think that the rough and tumble Canadians and NHL players, they all bravado. It just turned out, and so Jacques said he wasn't going out then for the second period.
Norm Schmitz got into playing hockey at age 39. He couldn't imagine playing in goal without a mask.
When you look at some of the NHL players back in the 60s and 70s, when the Bobby Halls and the Boom Boom Jeffrions, I mean, having those people shoot shots at you, and those guys, Gump Worsley, Glenn Hall, Terry Sawchuk, having those guys shoot pucks at you at those speeds, it's just insane.
Ty Edmonds was the Prince George Cougars netminder for 4 seasons.
People say I'm crazy enough as is, but back in the day I couldn't imagine that. I honestly couldn't, so I don't think I ever would have been a goalie or maybe even a hockey player. I don't know, not as tough as those guys.
While Schmitz's mask is unadorned, professional hockey masks have evolved tremendously since the crude rendition.
Goalies will tell you right away, they are a bit different with everything, their equipment, routines, but masks are another sort of different uniqueness about a goalie. And I think the best way to kind of describe what a mask means to a goalie, it tells their story. It's their personality, it's their trade card, it's their flag, if you will.
While he's had 5 masks over the years, it wasn't until Edmonds joined the Cougars that he got a custom mask.
I had a quote from my grandpa on the back. So he passed away, it'd be back when I was 16, so about 6 years ago. So it was just something to do with my dad and my grandpa, and I just thought it was a nice little touch for me, and it was right on the back plate. So not many people can see it, but when someone did comment on it, it was pretty neat to have that.
So when we think of things Canadiana, remember a time 60 years ago when one man's decision to buck the trend made history.
And coming up next, whether you love them or you hate them, the Caesar is Canada's cocktail. Well, its beginnings are the center of much debate. Nobody knows exactly where they came from, but it's quickly become Canada's favorite drink. In fact, it was declared Canada's official cocktail in Parliament in 2009. When it comes to mixed drinks, nothing says Canada quite like a Caesar. To some, it may sound like an odd combination.
Oh, there's nothing in it that tastes good.
Yeah, if you broke it down to the single ingredients, it is a very weird, strange concoction.
Vodka, Tabasco, a mix of tomato and clam juice, and
Worcester.
What's the proper pronunciation of that?
Worcestershire. Worcestershire.
Yeah, there are a few things about the Caesar that a lot of people don't quite know, like where it came from.
I have definitely heard many different stories. It started here, who did the first one? Was it just tomato juice?
There are a few conflicting stories, but the most well-known theory is that it was invented at an Italian restaurant in Calgary in 1969. The drink was inspired by the bartender's favorite dish, spaghetti and clams, and today it's one of Canada's classic cocktails. It's estimated more than 350 million Caesars are consumed every year.
I would definitely say that Caesars we sell pretty well more than anything except for our house beers. Yeah, people love Caesars. It's a Canadian thing.
Nearly every restaurant from coast to coast has Caesars on special every Sunday. It's the hair of the dog. It's almost medicinal. But everyone has their take on the drink that's called the perfect hangover cure.
A lot of people, they'll usually go for something like the bacon Caesar that we have here as well because, well, people love bacon, of course. And yeah, so that's pretty well it. I mean, there's not a lot of difference in the bacon Caesar other than just a bacon rim instead of celery salt and a strip of bacon on top. So get a nice little snack.
One thing that we do is we infuse our own vodka with poblano pepper. Another way of getting the restaurant to the bar to the restaurant. So we make a spicy vodka so that way it's already done. And then as we do the same thing with our clamato juice, is that we do spice it, but then we add our own signature barbecue sauce to it. So that's a spicy vodka already, and then we take our barbecue clamato juice, and all that we have to do is just pour a perfect glass.
Yes, some establishments going the extra mile to make sure their cocktail stands out, but even so, you can't please everyone.
There are some people who will have it with gin because they don't like vodka, or they'll have it with tequila or even rye. Yeah, there's many different ways of doing it to make. There is a Caesar for everyone, absolutely, I'm sure of that.
Well, whether you like it extra spicy, muddy, with an asparagus or a bean, we can all raise a glass to Canada's cocktail, the most popular and probably most disputed drink in the country. Cheers, Canada.